Over the last, I don't know, couple weeks or so, I just kind of noticed I was in a little bit of a funk. I wasn't as high charged positive energy kind of internally.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I just noticed that, you know, I felt like I was in a little bit of a funk. And I started to, once I started to recognize it, I realized I need to do something to pull myself out of this. I got to get back to the super high energy, very excited Adam who's ready to take on the world and become the next multifamily magnate.
I love
So I
it.
started to think about what can I do to recharge my positivity batteries? Because we both know how important it is for you to have that positive mindset. It's crucial to your success, right?
Absolutely.
So if you notice that you're not there, what are things you can do to get yourself there? And so I started to go back through and make a list of materials and sources and things I did before I even knew what that mindset was to to build myself up there and kind of recharge my batteries. So that's what I've been working on over the last couple weeks or so. And it's definitely had the intended effect. I'm feeling way better right now.
So how did you go about recognizing it? Was there something that was screaming something feels off, or was it one of those gut feelings that something just doesn't feel right? Was there a particular conversation you had, something you read? I'm curious to understand how that thought process was triggered.
Yeah, you know what? I think what did it is I have a planner that
Hmm.
I've been using, and in the planner, one of the things you can do is reflect. That's kind of built in. How did today go? How did last week go? Or the other thing built in is what will I do today? And what am I grateful for? That kind of thing. So I think I was looking at the planner one morning and I hadn't looked at it in a while because I kind of got off my normal routine and I had some travel. I was at a conference and so it's just kind of out of my normal routine. And I looked there and started to reflect. And I think that's the point I realized it. Have you found yourself in that situation before where you kind of felt like you were in a bit of a slump?
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't told you this, so it'll be interesting to put this on the episode. That like I'm absolutely happy for you that you closed on yours, but there's that part of me that I don't know if you want to call it jealous, but I reflect on, okay, what can I do to start making more progress? And then I think of what haven't I done to set myself up for success? And for some reason, I tend to focus more on the shortcomings and the failures and the mistakes more so than what can be done to further myself into the next stage. And it's so frustrating to sit
Man,
there.
no, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah, it's like, yes, I'm making progress. But then there's that part of me that's like, well, why haven't you made any more progress than you could have? And it's not conducive to anything. It's so, so frustrating.
Right? It doesn't help you, right? It really doesn't. And I'm with you. I do the same kinds of things. Um, and I don't know. Part of it's a human thing,
I agree.
and part of it is just the composition of your personality and how you were programmed and what you experienced when you were younger. But whatever it is, I think everyone feels that kind of thing at some point in time. And you're right, it absolutely is not beneficial. And I used to be 100 times worse than I am now about it. Before I started to discover things like the the power of positive thinking and the power of visualization. So I noticed that in me and started to work to pull myself out of it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you recognized it and yourself and you're self-aware means that you can take steps to do the same.
Yeah. And I like you said, you were reflecting. I think reflecting and consciously thinking, okay, what have I done? What's going well for me is the same way as I would use gratitude, where you focus on gratitude when you're feeling down because you get down at certain points, and gratitude helps kind of, for me, bring me back to a place of of happiness? What am I really grateful for? It's hard to be upset when you think about the things that you're truly grateful for. Um, and I say that as a means of recognizing the progress that we've made so far. And of course, I've got a long way to go. And that's part of the journey, is to continuously trying to be better, trying to learn more. But what have I learned? And it's hard to, when you're in your own echo chamber, to recognize how far you've really come.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's why it's important to have someone else partnered with you in some way, like accountability partners or a mentor or a coach. And it's just super helpful for someone else to provide a different context. Like the other day when you told me that you've seen me come so far since we've met, that just did so much for me. I mean, you may not realize how much that really helped me. I don't know. Hearing that from someone makes you realize how far you've come. And boy, gratitude, you mentioned that. It's such a huge part of it. I know when we talked to Kathy Fettke, and she was explaining how instead of complaining about something that you may be irritated by, take a different angle on it and realize how grateful you should be that you have it. You know,
Yeah.
like if your hot water heater goes out and you're griping about that and how irritated you are about that, think about how lucky we are to have running water. Hot water.
Yeah, exactly. And she was talking about the bills you have to pay. You have a cell phone. It's frustrating, and cable and all of these things that are first world luxuries, but we don't look at them as luxuries. We think, just another bill that I have to pay. And flipping that perspective is really helpful. And that's a good point with positive thinking. Or thinking positively, shifting your perspective from the negative to the positive it's a conscious effort. From my understanding, we are more hardwired to be attracted to the negative things, which is why the news and all of those things have headlines that are meant to elicit some type of negative emotion, right? And the news is filled with all this negativity for the most part, of things that are designed to get you to watch it, because that is a business. So if that's how we are psychologically, that's what I've read. I'm not a psychologist or any specialist in the way that the human brain operates, so don't crucify me if I'm wrong. From what I've read, that's my understanding of it. So if we're hardwired that way, it takes much more of a conscious effort. It's like an uphill battle to think differently.
Yeah, it is. And owning our responses to situations, being taking accountability for how we react to something internally and how we think about something it's crucial to growing and to increasing your emotional intelligence and to stay in a positive mindset. So, when those things happen, you can catch yourself and force yourself to think more positively about them and to avoid that temptation to stay in the negative. And that'll help grow and recharge those positive batteries.
Well, one positive outlook on this whole thing is that you're recognizing things. You're
Hmm.
not just going through the motions.
Right.
You are actively reflecting on how my day went. What did I do this week that I am happy about? What did I do this week that I'm not so happy about? So I think that is also a different perspective on the same topic that we're looking at. From an outsider's perspective, it may seem as though you're only or the insider's perspective, you're only looking at the negative. But from an outsider's perspective, you're looking at, hey, how can I improve? That's one way of that I was just thinking about it right now.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that idea of it. I think what I heard there was reflection
Mm-hmm.
and actively thinking about it, and having that awareness is also a beneficial tool for this.
And you touched on the victim mentality. And I think as an investor, you need to not think that way for whatever reason. To be, you're making a choice at any point in time. Even if you were to get scammed, like things that we've seen on the internet, you made a choice to invest. Was it a good decision? No. Could you have done something better? Absolutely. I'm not saying that people who scam other people knowingly are not the bad people. They absolutely are. But nobody was, actively stealing your money. I mean, if you identity theft, but that's not what we're talking about. Um, playing the victim is not going to get you anywhere. And I emphasize that because if you think that a lot of the things in the universe are conspiring against you, then you're also admitting defeat, that you can't change your own situation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where that growth mindset really comes in, is the belief that you control your outcomes in the long run. You can do things to control your destiny. And I love that.
And how do you think this is applying to you as an investor?
There's no question it has led to my recent success, and I believe it'll lead to my long-term success as I continue to embrace this and mature in it. The power of visualization is huge. The power of positive thinking is huge. In the last week, I started to rewatch The Secret,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of helped recharge those positivity batteries that I'm talking about, and did a lot for me. And as I was rewatching that, I realized there's no doubt this stuff was it was a huge contributor to my recent success.
I love it. The Secret, for those who have not heard of it, I believe it's a book also, but there's also a movie floating somewhere. There's one on Netflix. You can find on YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of self-development individuals who are on there. I think they have somebody that's a metaphysicist. And really, the big kind of nutshell explanation of it is the law of attraction. You attract what you believe in. How you act, all that can come full circle back to you if you put that out into the universe.
Yeah. And Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill has that concept baked in with, and throughout the book. And so I've been rereading some of that and just trying to rehydrate,
Yeah, absolutely. I like that rehydrate idea.
Yeah.
It can get depleted with a lot of things you're doing, especially if you are getting rejected more often than not, or people are saying no to partnering with you, which is, I guess, rejection. But all of that, is part of the game. It is a numbers game, but that doesn't mean that those rejections don't hurt. To maybe for me and you, that's how I feel we operate. It sucks. We don't like it.
Yeah.
It can compound and add to that negative feeling.
Yeah, there's something else I noticed in this reflection that may help others out. It was pretty interesting to me. I've noticed that when I start to get a little bit fearful or anxious, a lot of times it's because I'm not actively working towards an achievable goal that stretches me. That's pretty interesting.
Very good point.
Yeah. So if I'm going to start looking for that, if I find myself feeling that way, like, am I actively working towards a goal right now that is stretching me but is achievable? And if I'm not, then formulate one and start working for it. And just doing that and then beginning to take action to move closer to the goal kind of makes those feelings go away for me. And so it may do that for others.
Yeah, I like that. One of the things that I do in the morning is part of the Miracle Morning Routine, where the acronym is SAVERS, and it's silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and script. The A being affirmations. You're supposed to have affirmations that are tangible, that you believe in, that you are committed to. And there was a while where my affirmations, I would say them, but I didn't really believe them. And because it didn't feel like things were happening towards those affirmations, I don't want to look at them. I don't really feel like saying them. And then I don't believe in them. Right. And just like you, I had to think back. Are these affirmations realistic? Am I setting myself up for success or for failure? So I think going back to, if you set a goal and you don't achieve it, that's fine. That's part of it. You're not meant to achieve every single goal, and you're not going to. But that doesn't mean you have failed.
Right.
I look at it as, okay, what can I learn? And for me, it's, I'm not looking at the finer details of the goal to make the goal more realistic.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. And that Savers routine, that's from Miracle Morning by Elrod, right?
Correct.
Yeah, really cool book.
Yeah, it is a good book. I think the biggest takeaway I got from that was the Savers routine and how it can help and how to do it. But I think it's definitely a book worth reading.
Excellent.
So we talked about reflection. We talked about visualization.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned Think and Go Rich, but what are some other ways that you think we can help people think more positively, or kind of other ways that we have in mind to help rehydrate their energy towards going after their investment goals?
Yeah. So the ones we talked about are things that I'm using right now and have worked for me over the last couple of weeks. A couple of other things are find some source that you think is inspirational and is positive, and sort of surround yourself with that positivity. Surround yourself with what you want to be. Right. So for me, Rod Cleef has some podcasts that they're short, positive motivational bits. So I'm kind of going back through and making a list of the ones that I had listened to early on that I felt like really built me up and helped me get this positive mindset to begin with. So you can do the same. It could be Rod Cleef's, but it doesn't have to be. It could be any positive source that you think will, kind of lift you up.
Yeah. And for me, I drive a lot of energy from the people I'm around. And with that, finding a group of people that are like minded, that you can meet on a regular basis. Like you and I, Adam, we go to lunch. We have other people that we bring into, we wouldn't call it like a mastermind per se, but it's just that our group of friends where we talk about what's going on, how can we help each other, what are things that you struggle with, and that transparency of, hey, this is what I need help with, I think is huge. Because what you see a lot on social media, everything looks pretty, right? And I get it. It's
Yeah.
marketing, right? It needs to look pretty. But to know that people are struggling in the same way as you, I think for me, it helps put where I'm at into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really great one. One more source I can think of is some of Tony Robbins' material.
Mm-hmm.
For me, is very positive, very motivating. So I think the key is just finding some motivational, positive sources. They don't have to be the same ones that I use, but if they're motivational to you and positive, not negative at all.
Right. And to that point, I think it's important to recognize, we haven't quite said this explicitly, that these negative thoughts, these funks, are part of the journey. They're part of the game. They're going to happen. That's just the human condition, if you will, for anything that you're trying to learn and push past your comfort zone. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck at certain times. You're going to want to quit. But recognizing that it's happening, I think, is important, and not driving yourself crazy as to why it's happening, and like beating yourself up that it's happening. Just almost being stoic about it, recognizing it's there, and then trying to figure out a solution, I think is also important.
Well said. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's interesting that you go through cycles, and it's good to recognize that that's normal. There are some cycles you go through where the challenge of failing or looking at a daunting task is motivational, and you get hyped up about it. But then there are other times where it's not. It's demotivational. And when you find yourself in one of those down cycles, which is where I found myself, then the things we've talked about here are some things you can do to get yourself back in that upswing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I want to say is remembering your why. I think when all else fails, know why you got into, why you're on the journey, for whatever it is, your motivation. Because if that was enough of a motivating factor to get you to start, you should use it as an anchor to help refuel you and rehydrate you.
Yeah, saving the best for last. I think that's a really awesome point.
And if you want to just converse with us regarding, hey, what can I do? I feel kind of stuck. You can always reach out to us, techguyswhoinvest@gmail.com. We love talking about the positivity. And personally, for me, the success as an investor is a byproduct of transforming who I want Kevin to be in the future.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody.